Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie Wist. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Phillip G Carroll Jr. Before we chat about your movie, The Honeymoon Phase, may you tell me how your life has changed because of coronavirus?
That's a loaded question to start off the the interview with.
Yes. How are you?
I'm here, thankfully healthy, and we're doing the best that we can, just like everybody else right now. It's been both a long year and a short year, if that makes sense. It's weird. The time flows differently right now. But we have a movie coming out on Friday, so on that front, we're doing pretty good.
Beautiful. So how does it feel to have finished your first feature?
I think I'm still processing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's been quite an adventure. Literally a dream come true. Ever since I was a kid, this is what I wanted to do, and being able to make a feature film is something that it's not something that everybody has the opportunity to do in their life. So I'm extremely grateful to have had the team behind me that we did on the film to help me bring this story to life. I think that's like the main feeling right now. It's just a lot of gratitude. My wife Chloe, who plays Eve in the film, she always makes fun of me because I'm one of those happy criers. So like in a movie when it gets to the end and the score is screaming out and they're hugging, and it'll be me in the seat kind of in tears. So this whole process has been a lot of happy tears. Whenever a new milestone was reached, it's my first time. So like being able to do that, it's so gratifying and really just a blessing to have this opportunity.
Lovely. Who do you believe the audience is for your film, The Honeymoon Phase?
So I think our audience would be both people currently in a relationship with someone and also humans who want to be in a relationship with somebody. So I think we have a pretty wide audience there. Definitely over 17. Because it's not rated, but it would be an R definitely for the U.S. audience. But our film really explores relationship anxieties, and I think those fears that we all have about do you really know who your significant other is? So if you have ever had that thought or have that anxiety, I think our film is going to take you on a wild ride.
Okay. So let's touch on that. Tell me about subtext and what you're saying about relationships in this movie.
Sure. So I want to preface this, like I do whenever I talk to anybody about this part of the topic.
Yeah.
Chloe and I are in a very happy marriage, thankfully. You can confirm with her if you want to, but we're, thankfully in a really great relationship. Our relationship is kind of the foundation for everything else in our life, and trust is at the heart of that. And when we were going to make the movie, it was something that we really wanted to explore, was this idea of trusting your spouse, and do you ever know who they really are? I think in the unfortunate reality is that no matter what, you'll never know what another person is thinking. People can be saying one thing but meaning something completely different, or saying one thing and in their mind saying the exact opposite. And I think nowhere is that more apparent than when you're in a relationship with somebody. That's the art of the argument is something that we all learn. And it's been really fun in my own young marriage to kind of self-consciously, I guess, analyze where we are in our relationship as it grows and builds. And a lot of the film kind of stemmed out from our own experiences as a young married couple, and trying to figure out, how does marriage work? How do you make a good marriage? And what is a good marriage in 2020?
Oh my. So did you were you influenced at all by David Lynch's Eraserhead? Because a lot of that film has to do with his anxiety about being a father.
That's so interesting. It was not one of the influences, but I really want to rewatch it now that you said that. Some of the creative influences for us were Fatal Attraction,
Yeah,
Gone Girl, The Shining, Rosemary's Baby. Me and my wife are both a sucker for those kind of old, 80s romantic thrillers.
sure.
They don't make those anymore. Or if they do,
Yeah.
they go right to Netflix. They're not really in theaters as much. But as a couple, that's the kind of stuff that we love. Like, we love the ones that kind of put us in that awkward position of like questioning something about, who our lover is.
Yeah, I think like psychosexual, like intangible, sort of what's real, what isn't in a relationship movies. Those will always be scarier than just pure physical violence.
Yes, absolutely. And that's, I wish there were more of those movies that were being made today. Genres come and go. It's the same thing with, Westerns were really big and then they
Yeah.
faded away. And, hopefully the Honeymoon Phase can be a start of, that kind of, like you said, psychosexual thriller, that the resurgence.
That would be beautiful. I would love to see that happen. So I'm curious to know a little bit more about you. I would love to know more about your short films and what sort of influence they led aesthetically to this feature film.
Oh, great question. That the people always say that different directors have different styles, and because this is my first feature, I'm sure whatever my style ends up being in the long run, some of the seeds of that will be in here. And I always ask people that with my shorts. Is there anything that you could point to in the feature that I was exploring in the shorts? But I'm a big Spielberg, film lover. Jurassic Park is kind of my inspiration, as it is like a lot of people in my generation for becoming a filmmaker.
Mhm.
So I think a lot of his stylistic moves with the camera, that's stuff that I love. Those slow push-ins on somebody in awe,
Mm.
and then musically also, like, I'm a big music score lover, and John Williams, Michael Giacchino, all of those composers I love. So when I was working with our composer, Chris Ryan, that was something that both of us musically was really important in the film. And we've been collaborating for years. He did the scores for some of my previous short films. So some of the things that we were exploring in terms of like characters having different musical motifs, was very important when we got to the honeymoon phase. And, I think something that I find unique in some of my work is I'm very subjective, I think, when I'm telling my movies in terms of like whose point of view we're seeing the film through. So most of my short films were all told from the point of view of whoever the main character was. And for Honeymoon Phase, we try to limit everything in the present, I guess it would be the past timeline, the main timeline of the film, to Eve's perspective. And then there are these interludes with Tom where we cross over into his perspective. So a lot of my work, I like to kind of stay within a single character's point of view for a good portion of it, to see the world through their eyes. And that was something I tried to do with the honeymoon phase, except for those interludes with Tom. Because I think especially in a relationship, when you are going through things, it's so subjective. You're seeing it from your point of view only. And even when you're looking at other people's relationships, that was something that we talked about when we were developing the film. We never see what's going on inside any of the other houses. And one of the drafts of a few of the drafts of the script, actually, there were a couple scenes where we saw that. And eventually I settled on this, idea of when you're in a relationship, you only know what's going on in your bedroom. You don't know what's going on in anybody else's bedroom. And I think that's one of the, the keys to a relationship. But also one of the things that's scary about it is that, nobody knows what's going on in somebody else's house. And, there's a lot of trust that's built because of that, hopefully.
Yeah. Wow. Geez. Yeah. The existential dread of it, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Especially today, we're all isolated because of the coronavirus. So it's been very interesting to kind of see people put on new meanings to the film as it's getting closer and closer to release. The festivals I had screening at, virtually, but meanings that we didn't even necessarily intend back when we shot it in January of 2018 are now coming out of the film because we are all living in kind of this isolation while we try and tackle this coronavirus.
Yeah, geez. All right, so tell me about the vibe you set on set as the director with your cast and crew alike.
Yeah, so for me, I view every director is different, and for me, I view it as almost like a coach and a parent, where my job is to set the tone for a creative and collaborative environment where everybody has the freedom to, speak their mind, within reason, of course. We do have to make our days, but, some of the best ideas on set come out of that open collaboration. Like you never want somebody to feel like they can't speak up. And you always want people to feel safe. And I think that idea of like a parent where like, I really do look at it that way, where I'm so proud of the cast of the crew, and like, they're in a weird way, like my children in a way. Like when you're on set, it's like you're trying to coach them to be the best that they can be, and they're also teaching you new things and helping you to be the best that you can be. So that's kind of my style, just very open to collaboration, friendly, and trying to set a good, positive work environment.
I love watching, behind the scenes stuff on shoots. On DVDs or Blu-rays, and you can see, The Shining, for example, Stanley Kubrick being so jovial and friendly to Jack Nicholson, and so horrible to Shelley Duvall, and pitting them against each other and being a jerk. Or sometimes, there was another thing I saw, Quentin Tarantino talking to Bruce Willis on Pulp Fiction, and he's critical but laid back.
Yes.
So how do you coach your actors? Are you more Kubrick or are you more Tarantino?
Probably more Tarantino on that front, especially being married to the main actress of the film. I don't know how it would go over.
Yes. Right. You
But,
can't be Shelley Duvall.
Yeah, exactly. But, and on that note, our film is, Jim and Chloe in particular have to make themselves so vulnerable in every imaginable way, that trust was so important for the three of us to have, so that there was absolute comfort, because they are going all the way, literally, a full body performance in this film for both of them. So we had a very collaborative parental relationship where they could come to me with any question, and I would ask them what they need. I think it's an important thing for directors to keep in mind is every actor is different, just like every person's different. So things that work for one actor aren't going to work for another. So when we were in pre-production, I asked them, I guess to put it bluntly, it's like, do you need me to be Kubrick? Or do you need me to be Tarantino?
Right. Sure.
So I would change my style depending on what the actor would need. So like Jim, for instance, like he would just need like a one-line thing of like, okay, I need one that's funnier. And then he would go off and do his thing. Where some of the other actors are more psychological, where we would have deep discussions about things beforehand. And that's kind of the fun part of being a director, is kind of figuring out what makes your individual actors tick.
Oh, very cool. I've been listening to the Talking Sopranos podcast,
Okay.
and they talk about how it drives actors crazy, or the Sopranos actors would hate it when directors or whatever would try to get them to say lines a certain way instead of saying like, go over the emotion.
Yes. Yeah. It's so hard, because I see from both points of view, where it's like when you're making the film, time is so important, and sometimes it's just like, we can get this right now. I just need you to say it like this.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of like a give and take, where most of the time you try not to do that, but then there's some actors like Chloe, for instance, like she loves it if you just give her like a quick line reading. If it's in, if that's the only thing that's wrong with the moment, like if it's like, I need you to say this way instead of that way because of the edit, she loves that when you can do that. Where other actors, like you were saying, absolutely hate doing it. So it all depends on the person. Some people, like method actors, just want to inhabit the skin of that character and don't want to be taken out of it to think that they're inside of some kind of fabricated world, where others, see it where it's like, okay, I'm here just to serve the story, and just tell me what you need, and I'll do it. I'm your puppet. So It's just knowing, the actor that you're working with. And I don't think there's a problem with either method. It's just a matter of what gets the best performance for that individual person.
I like that. I like the the many ways to skin a cat approach.
Yes.
All right, so we talked about some movies you were watching. If you had to do the crude task of saying the honeymoon phase is this movie by this movie, what would you say? Yeah.
So when we were doing the prep, to market the film and go out to investors and everything, we had to do that exact exercise.
Oh my!
So ours is Fatal Attraction meets Black Mirror.
Okay, perfect. That's good. That's a good one. If it was by the way of Rosemary's Baby, what movie would it be?
It would still, I think it would still be Black Mirror. So like Black Mirror is kind of our style reference, where like Chloe and I are both big fans of it. And when we were pitching the movie, we were pitching it as, okay, this is a feature-length version of Black Mirror about a young couple, going into an experiment where their relationship's tested to try and figure out why couples fall out of the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, I definitely see Rosemary's Baby, the Mia Farrow, John Cassavetes relationship.
Oh, definitely. And especially, without spoiling it, some of the aspects of the experiment, Rosemary's Baby was definitely a reference to. We watched, Rosemary's Baby, Fatal Attraction, Gone Girl. That was another big one. The Shining was a big one in terms of this isolation, or the psychology of somebody, breaking down over the course of, a winter. And then Tom being a writer, of course. We wanted that in one scene in particular, we wanted to do an homage and kind of our own spin on from The Shining. So it was fun kind of looking back at cinema history and trying to find visual references and creative, jumping off points for our movie.
Well, cinema certainly has a very rich history. So we were talking to you mentioned earlier how the honeymoon phase as your first feature will certainly be the seed for future projects. And I was wondering, what other genres would you like to dive into after this one?
So I love, going back to Spielberg. He's a very big inspiration for me. And I love that he can jump between different genres. And I think that's so cool that each one of his films is so different than the last, while also still being 100% his style.
Sure.
So for me, I always like to do something different, like as my next film. Like I like to keep it fresh, and it keeps me constantly learning. I really want to do, the high school coming of age movie, a musical. I'd love to do, the action adventure, Indiana Jones type movie, sci-fi, pretty much every genre I'd love to try and tackle at some point in my life. Because as a film lover, I don't think I'm beholden to one genre. I think that the story tells you what genre that it wants to be, as opposed to like, oh, I have to work in this genre. Yeah, it all starts with the story for me.
I like that. You're an open book.
I like to be. I grew up on watching behind the scenes, and I love that stuff. So I like being an open book too, because you never know if I'm lucky enough to one day make it to a position where some child is watching the behind the scenes of one of my movies. I hope that I can, leave them in the same inspired state that all the behind the scenes that I watched growing up left me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Phil, thanks very much for your time. Enjoyed the conversation a lot. I was just wondering, before I let you go, if you can tell us your plans for the future.
Sure. So Chloe and I actually just arrived in Los Angeles yesterday. We were driving out from Philadelphia, so we did this cross-country move.
Oh, my.
Yes. So it was definitely a whirlwind. We wanted to be out here for when the Honeymoon Phase comes out on Friday. And, we're excited for this next chapter of our life. I love what Pixar does in their movies where they leave Easter eggs to their next movie. So in the Honeymoon Phase, the book that Tom is writing is the script that I'm finalizing right now, that hopefully going into development once, things open back up in the world. So that's what I got cooking next. If you want a taste of it, check out the Honeymoon Phase and look at the book that Tom's writing.
All right. That'll work for me. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you so much, Michael.